하나, 둘, 셋.
안녕하세요.
큐티추티입니다.
Today we're gonna be finally, after like,
드디어.
what has it been? Like almost 6 months of people asking for a how you met video. We're finally gonna be recording it. Telling you guys how we met, and I don't know, we also asked for some Q&A questions on Instagram. So we're gonna be answering those as well. Yeah.
지금 저희가 거의 이번 주말에 호캉스를 왔어요. 호캉스를 왔는데 드디어 이제 How We Met 영상을 되게 많이 요청을 해주셨는데 저희가 미루다가 드디어 그냥 호텔 온 김에 쉬면서 그냥 이렇게 여러 질문들 저희가 받았던 거 한번 대답을 해보려고 하거든요. 그러면은 How We Met 먼저 이야기를 해보도록 할게요. 어떻게 만났죠?
일단 어떻게 만났냐면 제가 한국에서 6년 동안
6년
살아서 뭐 한국말 조금 할 줄 아는데
잘하죠. 잘해요. 한국말 잘하는데 항상
아니에요.
못한다고.
아니에요.
항상 못한다고.
아니에요. 제 직업상 뭐 제 외국어를 유창하게
그냥 영어로 해. 어떻게 만났죠? 어떻게 만났죠?
So I want to explain how we first met. One of the reasons that we've taken a while to answer this question of how we first met is because actually like it's a little bit complicated, quite complicated.
사실
yeah.
사실 간단한 대답 있어. 간단하게 말할 수 있어. 어플에서 만났어요.
That's true.
그거
Like we
그냥-
can just say, we just met through like a language exchange app. That's like the short, brief, easy answer. But it is a lot more complicated than that. Like I actually lived in Korea for about 6 years before I came back. And
몇 년부터 몇 년까지 살았지? 한국에?
so from like 2014 to 2020.
코로나 딱 터지기 전까지, 그치? 코로나 터질 때,
And as soon as Corona like kind of erupted in the world, like so because of that, I ended up having visa issues, and at the same time, my dad was having a lot of health issues. And so there's like a lot of reason to go back to the States, and so I went back. And when I went back, I planned to be there for a week, but that week turned into about 2 years, and so I was in America for about 2 years, and actually while I was there, I don't know if people know this or not, but like one of my end goals is to be a professor. I have my master's in TESOL, and I think it's kind of embarrassing, to be quite frank, that I also nearly have my doctorate in TESOL, and I still don't have a second language at like full fluency. And so because of that, even though I had no intention to come back to Korea to live, like none, zero, I fully intended to still study Korean, because although it's not perfect, I did end up getting like a 5 on the TOEIC, and it's decent, especially writing and reading.
맞아.
I learned at Seoul National University, and I'm like the Korean version of a Korean student for English. But for Korean, where my writing and reading is quite good, my speaking is not
진짜?
that great, and my listening is okay. Basically, I came back for a couple of reasons. One, I have a lot of friends and kind of a Korean family here.
And you couldn't say goodbye to your friends and your Korean family.
So I wanted to come back, first of all, to say goodbye to them. Because I lived here for 6 years, I had a lot of stuff that I just acquired over time.
진짜.
Yeah, a lot, like a lot of stuff. And so my plan was to come back and actually use like 4 weeks of vacation time. 2 weeks would be spent in the facility quarantine, and 2 weeks would then be spent with family, friends, and shipping everything from my storage unit back to America. That was the plan. Like that was 100% definitely what the plan was going into it. But also I ended up delaying my return, even though I only had 6 weeks for vacation. I ended up staying for a full 4 weeks after quarantine because of this. But basically, like I had met her on the app and language exchange app, and we had been talking for I don't know about 2 weeks before I ended up coming to Korea, and then the whole 2 weeks during facility quarantine where there was like nothing to do whatsoever, we ended up like video calling like almost every day and just talking a lot, getting closer, getting closer, getting closer. And I actually hadn't really planned on meeting her like at all, like while I was there,
밥 먹기로 했지.
until that week, like
ah.
until facility quarantine. I had no intention of like meeting her or anything. But after it was just like, yeah, I have to go see about this girl. Like, I have to go meet her. So I did. And I haven't regretted it at all, not a single time. We definitely have had ups and downs, but like, yeah, overall it's been really good. And that's kind of how we met.
그래서 이제 나의 관점에서 설명을 하자면, 지금 어린 친구들은 모르겠는데 약간 전형적인, 저도 한국인의 영어를 하고 있어서 사실 리스닝이나 라이팅은 이제 모르겠어. 점점 안 쓰니까 점점 실력이, 영어도, 그러니까 언어가, 다른 언어가 안 쓰면 점점 이렇게 까먹고 잊어먹잖아요. 그래가지고 영어를 계속 어렸을 때부터 영어를 되게 좋아했어가지고 미국 드라마나 영국 드라마 이런 드라마, 영어로 된 드라마 같은 것도 엄청 많이 봤었고, 이래가지고 영어 공부는 계속 하고 싶다 약간 이런 게 있어가지고 언어 교환 어플을 사용해서 영어로 대화를 하고 이렇게 점점 안 까먹기 위해서 노력을 하고 있었는데, 이제 이렇게 케빈을 만난 거죠. 케빈을 만났는데, 원래는 케빈이 미국에 있을 때 대화를 하기 시작했거든요. 그렇게 하다가 케빈이 이제 여름 휴가 때문에 한국을 잠깐 온다는 거예요. 한 2주 동안? 그러니까 그 쿼런틴 하는, 자가격리 하는 거 빼고 2주의 시간이 있다고 해가지고, 그러면은 시간 되면 친구들 만나고 뭐하고 시간 되면 밥이나 먹자 이렇게 이야기를 하고 이제 한국으로 와서 자가격리를 하는데, 이제 케빈이 시간이 많아졌잖아요. 사실 미국에 있는 가족이랑은 시차가 이렇게 많이 차이 나니까 대화를 많이 못하고, 친구들도 일하고 있고 이러니까 대화할 사람이 많이 없었는데, 제가 이제 주말에는 할 게 없을 때는 거의 집에서 케빈이랑 거의 하루 종일 영상통화하고 그러다 보니까 엄청 많이 친해졌고, 그래 되게 대화도 잘 통했고, 만나면 재밌겠다 라는 생각을 해가지고 이제 저녁을 먹기로 했죠. 나 퇴근하고 이제 저녁을 먹기로 했는데, 그날 이제 장난으로 원래 케빈이 만나면
장난 아니야. 전혀.
나한테는 장난이었어. 왜냐면 아예 본 적이 없잖아. 대화는 되게 많이 했는데 본 적이 없으니까 되게 장난으로 이제 만나면 이렇게 들어서 올려준다고, 그 이모티콘이 있어. 이렇게 알 거야 아마. 이렇게 번쩍 들어가서 막 돌리는 이모티콘인데 저를 그렇게 한다는 거예요. 그래서 그냥 말만 그렇게 하네 이렇게 했는데, 진짜 제가 택시 타고 그 만나기로 한 레스토랑 앞에 딱 내렸는데 갑자기 저를 멀리서 보더니 막 이렇게 뛰어오더니 이만한 남자가 막 이렇게 뛰어오더니 갑자기 저를 이렇게 드는데, 저는 이제 처음 만난 사람이고 아무리 대화도 많이 했고 이러는데 엄청 당황을 해가지고
피했잖아.
막 이렇게 했는데 갑자기 이렇게 들어가지고 이렇게 들어가서 막 이렇게
이 상태로.
깜짝 놀랐어. 진짜 좀 당황을 했고, 그리고 이제 케빈이 처음 만나는 날 꽃다발을 이렇게 사온 거예요. 그래가지고 거기서 좀 감동을 했고, 뭐지? 이 남자 뭐지? 약간 이렇게 생각을 했고, 그날 이제 첫 만남을 이제 이야기를 해보자면, 저희가 소고기를 먹으러 갔거든요. 그때 어디서 만났지? 강남역 근처 쪽에서 이제 노년 쪽에서 만났는데, 왜 거기서 만났는지 기억은 안 나. 왜 거기서 만났는지. 그쪽에서 무슨 고깃집이 되게 맛있는 데가 있다고 해가지고 거기를 예약을 하고 갔는데, 되게 잘 먹게 생겼는데 처음에 되게 깨작깨작 먹는 거예요, 밥을. 그리고 나는 이제 약간 빨리 먹으면서 이야기를 했으면 좋겠는데 안 먹고 계속 이야기를 하는 거야. 밥을 안 먹고 그냥 소고기잖아. 익으면 빨리 먹어야 되거든. 안 먹고 기다리는 거야. 그래가지고 이거 빨리 먹어야 되는데 소고기인데 그래서 왜 이렇게 계속 말만 하고 밥을 안 먹지? 그래서 내가 막 계속 좀 먹으라고 좀 먹어 이랬는데 아니야 이러면서 계속 말을 해. 막 여보 계속 말을 해. 그래가지고 나중에는 막 엄청 부끄러워했고 처음에는 엄청 부끄러워서 말도 잘 못하고 눈도 잘 못 쳐다봤어. 내 눈도 잘 못 쳐다봐. 그래서 내가 계속 빨리 먹어 했더니 갑자기 거의 마지막쯤에 나 이거 진짜 다 먹어도 돼? 나 진짜 다 먹어도 돼? 하더니 갑자기 배고팠나? 많이
아니
배고팠나?
그때 120kg 정도였는데
그니까
그래서 엄청 많이 먹었어.
근데 안 먹었어. 처음에 안 먹고 계속 이렇게
근데
그래서 갑자기 나 다 먹어도 돼? 엉엉 진짜 포크로 이렇게 해가지고 먹을까? 그때가 좀 그 코로나 때문에 제한이 있었어가지고 10시면 아마 다 문을 닫았을 거야. 그치? 10시 정도에? 그래서 저희가 밥을 먹고 나왔는데 갈 데가 없는 거야. 원래 설빙을 가려고 했어. 그치? 너무 그때 여름이었거든요. 너무 더워가지고 설빙을 가려고 했는데 그때 그 레스토랑이 에어컨이 너무 빵빵해서 추웠어. 그래서 원래 빙수를 먹고 싶었는데 추워서 그럼 한강 가서 추우니까 한강에 가서 좀 이렇게 산책을 하다가 설빙을 가서 먹자 했는데 거기 어디 한강이었는지 까먹었는데
never ending road. Like legit never ending.
그 산책로를 따라서 어디선가 쉬는 곳이나 벤치가 있겠지. 저 그때 힐도 신고 있었거든요. 힐 신고 있고 막 꽃다발 이렇게 들고 있고 막 더워가지고 막 땀나는데 처음에 10분 정도는 괜찮았어. 아니 벤치가 나와야 되는데 안 나와. 10분 더 걸었어. 또 안 나와. 거의 한
계단 아무도 없었어.
계단도 없고 벤치도 없고 뭐 아무것도 없어. 그냥 진짜 그 산책로 거기를 간 거예요. 그래서 거의 1시간 걸었나? 거의 1시간 걸었어 진짜. 30분?
30분 정도.
30분 정도 걸었는데 땀을 막 이렇게 흘리고 있고 나는 이제 다리가 아파. 빨리 가고 싶어. 어디 앉고 싶어. 그래서 이제 결국에는 어디 나가는 길이 있어서 나갔는데 거기 무슨 차도였어. 차도. 그래서 거기서 이제 거의 30분이 지났잖아요. 거의 이제 10시가 다 된 거야. 거의 30분 남았나? 20분 남았나? 설빙은 못 가지. 빙수 가게를 못 가지. 그래서 저희가 결국에 어떻게 했냐면 이제 또 헤어지기가 싫은 거예요. 왜냐면 밥 먹고 산책밖에 안 했어. 근데 이제 영업 종료여가지고 다 문을 닫아. 갈 데가 없잖아요. 그래서 거기 너무 더우니까 땀을 너무 많이 흘리고 더워가지고 편의점을 가가지고 너무 더워서 이제 시원한 걸 마시려고 편의점을 가가지고 시원한 걸 먹으면서 이제 길거리에 앉아있었어요. 그 근처에 또 앉을 데가 하나도 없었어요. 뭐 공원도 없었고 앉을 데가 없었어요. 그냥 길거리에 앉았어요. 무슨 길거리 뭐라고 해야 돼? 약간 이런 턱 같은 데가 있어가지고 거기 앉아가지고 그냥 막 그거 마시면서 이제 했는데 마시고 있었는데 너무 더운 거야. 진짜 너무 더웠어요. 너무 더워서 뭐 배달을 시키자. 빙수를 여기로 배달을 시키자 해서 진짜 길거리로 배달을 시켰어. 근데 그거 진짜 맛있었어. 빙수. 맛있었어. 그래서 거의 집에 한 11시 정도? 12시? 그래서 막 진짜 길거리에 앉아가지고 빙수 먹고 막 땀 삐질삐질 흘리면서 막 모기 잡고.
And one of the things I remember is like one of my favorite memories from that night is like I haven't done this. I've never done this with anybody else, but it was like before we got bingsu, we went and there's like just 편의점, like convenience store, and we got one of those like ice and syrup kind
그냥
of things.
음료수? beverage 같은 거 그냥 그런
just kind of
iced tea or
iced tea kind of thing that you can just pour into like a ball, like a
with
pre-made
ice.
plastic cup of ice, and like after we finished drinking it all, then we were sitting there with the ice and just kind of squeezing it. I started like squeezing them and watching them like fly across the road kind of thing. Because if you squeeze them hard enough, they like slip out of your hand and like kind of fly. And then we were like trying to see who could squeeze it farther to like go across the road. She kept winning actually, like quite a
그래?
few times.
기억 안 나.
Surprisingly, like not every time. Obviously, I won more, but
축하해.
but yeah, like it was still it was fun. To me, that was a really good memory too.
재밌었어.
So, yeah.
너는 그런 거 뭔가 있죠. 뭔가 있잖아. 사귀기 전에 막 집에 가기 싫어가지고 막 길거리에서 막 계속 뭘 하고 계속 뭘 하고 막 이런 거. 그랬던 것 같아. 그래서 그렇게 첫 만남은 그렇게 끝이 났고 이제 케빈도 이제 한국에서 한 2주밖에 시간이 없으니까 친구들도 만나고 아니면 가족들도 만나고 그냥 한국에 가족이 있거든요. 가족처럼 지냈던 한국 가족이 있어서 가족들도 만나고 이런 계획이 있었는데 하루는 여보고 말해 친구를 만난다고 한 날이 있어요.
So the next day I was planning to meet Dave,
친구.
who's like really close friend, who lives right there in Seoul, not that far from where I was staying. So I was actually staying in Gangnam, which is one of the reasons I think we went to the like Sogogi, is because like it was really close to where I was staying, and then also she was not that far away where she was working at the time. And basically I had also stayed there because it was very close to Dave, who is like, yeah, like I said, one of my close friends. And so I made plans to meet him and like go out to drink and that kind of stuff. Just have dinner, go out, drink. But the whole time that I was with him, basically, I was still texting her. And also just thinking about her and talking to Dave about her. And he was talking to me because he's actually getting married soon. 2 weeks. Yeah, like really soon. So he was talking to me at that time about the girl he was going to marry and like basically their relationship and that kind of stuff. And so we ended up drinking a lot.
취했어.
Not saying it's like it was all bad talk or anything like that. I'm not trying to say that at all. But like, yeah, we ended up drinking a lot, and then I was a little bit drunk, and I basically just asked her like, "Well, can I come over and see you? Like, not necessarily like go to your house, but like, can we meet somewhere, or like, can I come from your house or something? Like, I'd love to see you tonight, like that." And that was around like 10 or something, so it was pretty late, and I kind of like, I almost didn't ask. I almost just went back to my hotel or whatever, but I ended up being like, yeah.
근데 여보가 이랬어. 내가 아이고 오늘 너무 늦었는데 이랬더니 아 잠깐만 보고 그냥 갈게. 얼굴만 보고 갈게 이랬어. 내가 아 너무 늦었는데 그러니까 아 그럼 얼굴만 보고 갈게 이렇게.
But I didn't just see her.
뭐라고?
I said I didn't just see her and leave. Like basically, like when I got there, she actually recommended like, hey, let's walk to like the 7-Eleven like nearby and get some ice cream. And
더웠어 그날도.
oh, it was really hot. And so we went and got ice cream and like went and just sat on another random place on the street and like just ate ice cream and talked and laughed and
왜냐면 진짜
like,
그때는 코로나 때문에 10시가 넘으면 갈 데가 없어.
아무도 없어.
갈 데가 지금이야 뭐
너무
카페 가도 되고 뭐 술집을 가도 되고 뭐 갈 데가 있는데 그때는 갈 데가 없었어. 그래서 진짜 그냥 길거리에 앉아서 또 아이스크림 먹으면서 이야기하고 그랬어. 거의 한 12시까지?
So then went back to a hotel, and so
그래서 그 다음
after meeting Dave, the next day we made plans to see each other again, and I canceled going to Yesan, which pissed my little brother off, but at the same time, like I kind of don't regret it because I got to spend more time with her. But that night we made plans to go to like a board game cafe.
밥 먹고
And get dinner, and then we basically did the same thing where we went back to her house, but not to her house, just in the street in front of her house. I was just saying goodnight, and basically just ended up spending a lot of time hugging. I don't know, it was at that point that I decided like, I don't want to even just go for the weekend to Yesan, knowing that she's still on the market. I don't know if that sounds bad, but like, yeah, I don't know. It was at the point I was like, yeah, definitely this is who I want to be with, and I don't know how that's gonna work because I had no intention of coming back to Korea, and because like I was living and working in America. And she was obviously living and working here, and that meant long distance, which I am big. had always been a big disbeliever in. Even through all that, even thinking all that through, it's not like I made a rash decision or something. Like I thought about it quite a lot, and I just decided there has never been someone I've met before ever that I have kind of vibed as well with, or that I felt, I don't know, kind of matched me so well, just in general, everything. There have been very few things that we have truly clashed on. Definitely the one big one I can think of. But other than that, almost everything, I feel like our hearts and minds are in the same place, almost always. She's a lot smarter than me about, I think, common sense stuff. And I think there's some ways, book smart ways, that I got some advantages. But I would say I don't know, just overall everything seemed to click. Everything. Every box seemed to be checked if there's boxes for the person you're gonna date. And I felt just everything within those 2 weeks, she basically made me feel more than I felt in a lot of relationships I've been in for more than a year or 2 or 3. And I feel like somebody who's capable of doing that has a place in your life. And whether or not you'll have a history together or not, I think it's worth pursuing it to see if you do. And so I decided, let's try it. And one of the things that we joked about, even when we first started talking, just between us, nobody knows the future, so live in the present. Just continue to live in the present, and things are good, let them keep being good. If they're not, then that's when you know something has to change. Basically, I decided just go all in again. I had been single for quite a while, and almost 2 years, and I decided during that time I just wanted to focus on myself. And honestly, my career was being improved by being in the States. But after I met her, it was kind of life sending me down a different path, is how I felt. And I felt that way a number of times in my life. Not necessarily I chose my path, I get to choose how I live, but life kind of presents situations, and a lot of times it seems to be directing you. I kind of believe in that. I kind of believe in fate a bit, I guess, as weird or nerdy as that might sound. But I don't know, basically I don't know, a lot of my successes or my achievements in life have all been earned through hard work or effort, and almost every time something happens to redirect me. So for example, basketball, I was focused a lot on basketball. I don't know, nobody cares about this, right?
너무 통화지도 이거 거의 1시간인데 How You Met One?
I made a lot of effort to have that happen, and that's why I'm here right now, is because we talked about a lot. Should we try to get her to go to Korea or to America, or should I try to go to Korea again? And it was a very long process, which it didn't used to be. It used to be kind of a short process to get from America to Korea, but turned out to be a little lengthier than we anticipated because of Corona, because of I don't know, just different setbacks, processing times, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's how we met. And a lot more stuff you guys didn't know. So.
엄청 많이들 물어봐 주셔가지고 빨리 찍어야지 했었는데 드디어 엄청 긴데 결론은 어플로만 땄어. 여기 있다. 여기 이렇게 있다. 아니 이상해. 왜 바로 대답? 영어로.
Playing basketball hurt my knee. Swimming ended up competing at the same time as Ryan Lochte and Michael Phelps.
Just almost everything that happened, having no plan B for masters, and then even though I had all the grades and everything, and GRE score and just everything to get in school.
안녕히 계세요, 여러분. 여러분도 행복하세요.